everyone, welcome back to She Owns It. I'm Nicole Rymer, your host, and we're the Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce, the Women's Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce, and we're back for another episode here at Venture X. Really excited. We're going to talk about some serious stuff today from our guest, Nancy Ferraro, attorney Nancy Ferraro. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so excited for you to be here. We're doing a lot of talking off camera, so we had to hurry up and press record, because you're an attorney, but you're an estate planning attorney.
Exactly.
And I am so much more knowledgeable about estate planning than I ever thought I would be, and there's so much that goes into it. And I love your approach to your clients that we're definitely going to get into.
Well, my work here is done. I can go now.
Yeah, no, she can go. We've got, So you're kind of new to the Women's Chamber, right?
I am.
How long have you been a member?
Just a couple of months.
Oh, wow. Okay. But you've done a lot. You've already done one of our Mentoring Mondays.
I have.
Why was it important? Because we're going to get into you're somewhat new to Florida as well, a practicing attorney for a very long time. But why did you want to join the Women's Chamber in particular?
Well, I walked in, first of all, and the energy was magnetizing. Yeah. The women are excited, they're motivated, and they're generous and kind. And that's a place where I want to be.
Yeah, I mean, just on a even, we're a business obviously oriented, but just on a personal level, that's where you want to kind of align yourself with people who care. You know what I mean? So, so yeah, you've done a Mentoring Monday, and you do estate planning. So talk to us a little bit about, why you came to Florida. Because I think it's obviously gorgeous outside, but and you came from the Northeast, right?
I did.
I'm a Northeast girl, and it's cold.
It was cold.
And explain what estate planning really is, because it seems simple, but it's not. It's pretty involved, I think.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's funny, off camera, you asked me why I came here to practice law, and that was.
And I love your answer.
That was a great question. Yeah. I actually didn't come here to practice law.
And here we are.
Yet here we are
about law.
I came here to do anything but practice law.
Wow.
Because I was so frustrated with the delivery method of services. My clients were afraid to pick up the phone. They asked me a question because they knew I had to bill them.
And that's probably a pet peeve or what's scary, I think, for anybody that they are afraid to work with attorneys too,
Right.
It's the billing.
Right. So things got done in a haphazard way. I was very conscious of the cost, and so were my clients. So they were afraid to ask a question, and when they did, it was abbreviated, and they didn't want to keep me on the phone. So we didn't really develop a relationship. When I came here, I did not want to practice law. But I fell back in love with it because...
You've been doing it for so long.
Well, I went to work for an attorney who had me set up his estate planning and probate department.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I would be sitting with his clients and have to run into his office and say, Mark, stamp me on the forehead, and run out and say, well, Mark says. But that was very frustrating for me. Right. It wasn't Mark says, it was Nancy says.
Right.
So the next thing you know, I find myself in a room full of 3,000 26-year-olds taking a bar exam.
And here we go
thinking,
again.
What am I doing? And then the second point of frustration was working for firms that did not understand the service end. They understood the time billing.
Right.
So if I had to go to the bathroom, I was worried about who was I going to bill it to? My clients felt that pressure, and I just didn't like practicing that way.
Wow.
I wanted to find a way to help my clients pass on more than just their money, because you're more than your money.
It's so refreshing to hear from an attorney. You don't really hear that.
It's sad. I started volunteering at the assisted living facilities and trying to get my bosses to send me and to send our employees to say, let's do a writing project so that when these people pass, they have their stories to pass on to their families. And I couldn't get my bosses to hear that. So finally I decided to do it myself. I do not have a clock in my office.
Say that again. She doesn't have a clock in her office.
I don't want my clients to be afraid to pick up the phone, or if they get into a car accident or they get arrested for something. Those are not my areas of expertise, but I have a cadre. I have a network of attorneys that I know, like, and trust, because I would no more send you to the attorney down the street than I would go myself.
Right.
So I want to have that family lawyer relationship with my clients. I want to have that hugging and kissing, laughing and crying together that we do. And it's what we do.
Wow.
And our legacy interviews are tear-jerking because they get to record their voices.
Oh, wow.
And talk about their stories and what's important to them and their customs so that generation after generation will know them.
Wow, that really is a relationship building, because you find out everything about them basically when you're planning everything out for them.
Right, and it's not just about your money, and it's not just about you.
Right.
It's about protecting the people that you love in a way you want to protect them.
Right, and that's something that I did not realize until I talked to Nancy. This is not something that somebody who is retirement age should think of. This is something, I'm in my 30s. I mean, it's something that everybody really needs to start thinking about before, because it's not just going to affect you, it's going to affect your family, whether it's your kids, your parents, your siblings, your friends. And you really went into everything about, who's going to take care of you if you get sick or you have an accident. And, you told a story about, if your son could find your documents should something happen to you.
Exactly. So there are so many things that happen in my office. So many times people come in, and my generation, we're basically the sandwich generation. We've raised our children, and now we're taking care of our parents.
Right.
And if our parents don't have documents in place, I end up in court with guardianship. The silver alerts, I joke when I see the silver alerts on the highway, the grandpa's out with Chevy again.
And that happens a lot in Florida. So.
But it's really not funny.
No.
There are highways that bottom out in the middle of the state, and these people get calls, we got your dad, we're giving him coffee, come get him. Wow. And they don't have any documentation in place. They don't have any planning in place. So we end up in court. It's expensive.
Right.
It's insulting, really, because you're under this emotional duress of having to care for your loved one, your mother or your dad or your aunt or your uncle or your grandparent, and now you have to come out of pocket until the judge approves you. You might have to post bond. You have to fill out accounting. A judge will assign a panel of 3 doctors that you have to pay for, by the way, to examine your loved one to say that they are incompetent. And by the way, they're assigned an attorney of their own. It's all very expensive. And then
it's time consuming, it's expensive, it's nerve-wracking, it's scary.
And if you know anything about dementia, it's a short-lived disease.
Yes.
So by the time I get the guardianship open and get these people appointed, then grandpa usually passes.
Wow.
So before I can even open probate, I have to close the guardianship. It's heartbreaking.
As opposed to if you just had a plan in place, God forbid something should happen, you have a plan.
It's seamless.
It's seamless, it's a process, you've gone through it, and nobody wants to go through it until they have to. And it's, I think, something that nobody thinks about.
You owe it to your adult children to put it in place. You owe it to your spouse. People think a lot of crazy things like, well, I'm married, so I'm automatically the power of attorney for my spouse. That's not the case.
Wow, I did not know that.
You are not.
Is that just Florida law? Like, is that just how things are kind of set up in Florida?
It's a general rule. Well, things are a little different in Florida.
Yeah.
Things are a little crazy and different in Florida, as you know.
Yeah.
So we have to be mindful of that. And of course, with planning, you can plan around basically anything.
My goodness. And you brought up dementia, and that's something, just in my travels, I see more clinics for dementia and Alzheimer's popping up than I've seen in the past 10 years. So obviously, if that's the case, you want to be prepared, whether it's yourself, a spouse, like you said, a grandparent or your parents or something like that.
And do it before you need it. Sometimes I can help, and most times I can't. I had a case where a gentleman came in with his wife, and she had been diagnosed with a disease that leads to dementia.
Oh, wow.
And he came in with a power of attorney that he downloaded from the internet and was surprised it didn't work. These are not the kinds of documents that you do yourself because you don't know if they're effective until you need them. Right. And then it's too late. So I was able to help him. It was just a matter of some deeds. She was still cognizant. She was awake and aware, and I could help him. But then I got a call a couple weeks later. She had fallen. It had plunged her right into dementia.
Oh, wow.
Had he waited, we would have been in guardianship court. And then a couple of months later, she passed away.
Oh,
so we would have barely had the guardianship open. We would have had to close it, open probate. It would have been a mess.
And I can't imagine going through that and doing it alone, because you don't have a plan in place. I wouldn't know what's my first step, you know what I mean? Hence the reason you need somebody to do this for you
Right.
and set it up because you're the expert. I wouldn't know where to go first.
You don't get a guide or a counselor or an advocate from LegalZoom or
Right.
one of those. You just don't. They
No.
don't know you.
Right. And they're just giving basic services,
Right.
basic documents, and that may not be for the state, right? I mean,
Exactly.
you
And-
probably need a little bit more in depth.
Well, they tell you right on the landing page that 85% of people who download those forms complete them incorrectly.
Oh, nice.
So why would you charge on? Yeah, you
Wow.
can check it off your list, but you won't know.
Right. I didn't go to school to be an attorney, so I've gone there even myself, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking at. You know, I'm a realtor. I'll interview you, but I wouldn't know, a legal document. Hence the reason you need somebody like you who does this for a living
Yeah.
to put it together.
And that's why I love the Women's Chamber, because there are women who recognize that we all have an expertise and a specialty, and we stay in our lane. I would no more decorate someone's house
Right.
or try to sell a house
Right.
or than. And these
Right.
people recognize and appreciate that we all have our specialty, and I'm here to help you, and you will hopefully help me.
Absolutely. It's a big network that, I've referred people because I've met them through the chamber, and I trust them. And, if you're part of a professional organization like the Women's Chamber, obviously, and that's who you want to go and work with. You know what I mean? So you've been an attorney for quite a while now in the Northeast. What do you think's been the biggest change for a female attorney? What has been either your biggest challenge that you've seen? Has it changed any? You told some great stories, so I want you to
Oh my gosh.
tell them. But I know a lot of attorneys and female, and they all seem to kind of have the same stories. Unfortunately, you told a great story about attorneys that you've met are much older and 90. But
I did.
What do you think's like the biggest challenge? What have you encountered over the years?
Well, we're still fighting being taken seriously. Which
is crazy.
It is crazy. And
We're talking about that.
Part of the thing is I think that we are our own worst enemy. I've met a lot of female attorneys who think that in order to be effective, we have to look like men in skirts. And we don't. We can still be taken seriously, be smart and effective, and still look good doing it.
Right. Be yourself.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you don't have to be something that you're not.
Respect the profession.
Right.
But you
Right.
can show your personal style. I always have pearls on because to me, they represent the ocean, they come from the sea, and
Okay.
they make me happy. So I
Okay.
feel like I'm at the beach. So
There you go.
I'm always looking for something funky in pearls.
Okay.
And a lot of estate planning clients come in, they want to see a little bit of themselves in you.
Oh.
So you try to reflect a little bit of their values. And I think that's important to show that you respect their generation, you respect their knowledge base, and you respect their experience.
Because there is a lot of experience and knowledge there. You know what I mean? And what do you think's, like I said, the biggest challenge maybe for today's female attorney? Has it changed at all?
It has changed. It's changed tremendously. I have met 90-year-old female attorneys who have told me stories about being slapped on the butt in law school.
Think about that. You're Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she's in her 80s, I think. Can you imagine you're going to school, you're studying the same that a man is studying, working hard. Law school is not easy. Like I said, I know a lot of attorneys, and being slapped on the butt. I cannot even grasp that.
And then they're only asked the sexual harassment or the rape questions.
In class.
In class. So imagine being in a class
Of men.
Of men.
Having to answer that.
And having probably to stand up, say your name,
Right.
and give a reasoned answer. And that's intimidating. So I like to tell younger attorneys, talk to the generations. I would love to start a dialogue amongst the generations because that's how we appreciate the road that's
Right.
been paved for us. It hasn't always been, here I am, I'm a woman, and take me seriously.
Right.
There are generations of women who have sweated that and paved that way for us, and we owe them a debt of gratitude.
Yeah, we can't forget that. We wouldn't be here without what they've done.
We have a long way to go.
We have a very long way to go. I mean, with the pay gap, have you seen an issue with a pay gap for female attorneys?
Yes, and I read a statistic recently that said it'll be 150 years before we catch up, salary-wise.
Just on attorneys.
Well, females in general.
So we've heard longer. I think it's like 200 years or something like
Great.
that. Either way, like 150, 200 years. It's
Not in our
ridiculous,
lifetimes.
right? You know, like I'm not going to be around. You know what I mean? And I can't imagine with the amount of schooling that it takes to just be an attorney, right?
Right.
Like
and
a
that's
professional.
Right. And so we're still the nurturing sex, right? And I think it's a wonderful thing. But, and I tell a lot of people who are going through divorce, have your attorney have the conversation with the judge. Statistics show, the labor board has statistics saying that women who stay home to take care of their children will never catch up financially in their lifetimes. So equitable distribution is great, and the judge will give it to you, but what about that gap? There has to be an extra calculation.
Right.
So I preach and I preach and I preach to divorce attorneys, to people going through divorce, to say, make it equal. Equitable distribution is not equal for us, the women who've stayed home to care for our children.
Right, because it's not counted for.
Exactly.
All those years of running the household and the finances, paying the bills, raising the kids, making sure they go to school, like none of that's accounted for as work. I just saw a study on that as well. And I mean, do you think that'll change? That'll be accounted for? Just like it's not even, it wouldn't be a second thought, like it'll just be.
I don't know. And you think we don't even get a trophy or a parade.
Show me the money.
We'd at least get a parade.
I know, something, right? It's, well, I think being a parent, but being a mother is a very thankless job.
It is,
forever.
and we turn out these great contributing members of society.
Right.
It's important.
And it starts in the home, so it's obviously the mom is the biggest factor of that a lot of times.
And I think the saddest thing in American culture is that we only value people who are financially successful.
Right.
We only value people who generate the most money because and really money is just a unit of energy. Just the way mothering is, just the way keeping a home is. It's all essential to a successful family.
Right. That's so true. That's a mic drop. That's excellent. That's so true. I don't know if it'll ever change. I mean, you said something off camera how, and this is something that we talk about at the chamber a lot, how our male counterparts really have to have an equal role in helping the situation along. Do you find that's the same in the lawyer field, the attorney field, but also in general, that men have to be like our counterpart?
I think the enlightened men that we know understand that strong women make better partners. And so they're willing to roll up their sleeves because the reward they get is 100-fold.
Right, it's equal. It's equal everything in the household, at least, in a relationship. And do you feel that that has gotten better? Or it's kind of still lagging behind a little bit? In my experience, I think that men still want you to be feminine, frilly, and, you know, he that also wants you to bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan. And we haven't graduated from that. And I think that whole movement, we shot ourselves in the foot because we wanted to do everything. Whose idea was that? I don't want to do everything at once. That is exhausting. Everything, all the responsibility is heaped on us, right? Yeah, that's difficult. And I don't think we think of that in those terms. That maybe it's a lot, you know, to have to worry about everything. Being the best, you know, we have to overcompensate because we are a woman in work, you know, and worrying about all of that. So many good tidbits. I hope you're writing them down. You did our Mentoring Monday. I did. The other day. How did that go? Did you like that? It was amazing. It was amazing. The women who show up for those are invested. They're smart. They had great questions. They're inquisitive. They want the knowledge. They want the information. And really, that's what I'm there for. I am really standing in my purpose when I am educating other women about the law because, believe it or not, every decision we make has an impact on our legal life. So be aware. Be aware. If you want to move into somebody's house and your name's not on the deed, great, but know that you're a house guest. If you're going to say that again, because I'm in real estate, so I have to say this. If you're not on the deed, you're a house guest. Yes. And I find that women in that realm don't know that.
And your license can be revoked.
Right, right.
By the way.
Yeah.
You know, you come home and he's in bed with his secretary, you better pack your bags, sweetheart.
Wow.
Because you have no legal right to be there.
Oh my goodness, think about that.
I mean,
you know?
do it. I mean, if you want to do it, go for it. And
well, I think, you know, all we can say to people is educate yourself. Educate yourself, if you know, and protect yourself, because nobody else will, right? We have to be the ones to do that.
it's kind of sad, but it's true. We do have to be our own best advocates.
Yeah.
So we link arms.
Yep.
We raise each other up because a rising tide lifts all ships, right? It's
Oh,
not.
I love that. That's amazing. A rising tide lifts all ships. I'm going to put that on a shirt. I love that.
It's not us versus them. It's us together. A sisterhood rising together.
Right.
It's not a war.
No.
It's actually a movement. I believe that we are standing at the foothills of a really large movement.
I hope so. I hope so. And it is important. I think, you know, we're in this together. We're not adversaries. We need each other to make things better. We can't do it on our own, or else it's going to take the 200 years. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You
We
know?
can't do it alone. And that's the great thing about women who link arms.
Right.
We recognize that in our vulnerability,
Right.
there's strength.
Absolutely. And I think we're probably told not to be vulnerable because we're told to be so strong.
We have to be strong and tough and masculine, but we're not. We can stand true in our femininity and still be smart and powerful and accomplished.
I love that. That's so amazing. So for those of you who don't know, our Mentoring Monday happens a few times a month on Monday. And it's for members and non-members. For members, it's free, and there's a small cost for non-members. And you get to listen to a great legal mind here who's amazing. And we've had CaraJoy present as well. And so definitely check into that because we offer a lot of tools that you'll be able to kind of pick up. But you're going to give away something to our audience. I love doing giveaways. It's like my new thing. I love being able to give something away. So tell us what the audience can grab from you.
Well, I'm really excited about
Yeah,
this.
I am too. This is going to be great.
I am thrilled to offer your viewers a complimentary planning session with me. It is an up to 2-hour working session.
Wow.
And it has a value of $600 because it is 2 hours plus of my time and your time. So what you will get from me is a worksheet that you'll come into my office with. And even if you decide you don't need my services or we decide not to work together, you will be more financially organized than you've ever been, because now your family will know where your bank accounts are. They will know where your life insurance policy is. They will know who you want to take care of you should something happen. So at the very least, you'll come in, we'll have a conversation, we'll get to know each other, and you will know what you want to do. If you want to go through probate, if you don't care, that's fine. It's not my decision. I inform and empower my clients to decide for themselves how they want their estate to proceed, what they want to happen, and then we go forward.
So they're also getting a lot of knowledge, probably, is items that they didn't know about. A lot of people don't know about probate.
Yeah.
They don't know that, you know, they just don't know about guardianship. They don't know about power of attorney. They just don't know about those things. And if you're just watching, we're with Nancy Ferraro, attorney Nancy Ferraro. And one thing that we had mentioned earlier is that don't wait until you're ready to retire to do this. So for those, we have a lot of, we're starting our next gen program, you know, to diversify. And, you know, a lot of those members are 20s, 30s. They should start thinking and getting some type of plan in place. And I don't know the answer to this. Can they amend it moving
Oh, of
forward?
course.
Things can be added and amended as maybe your life changes. You get a husband or a spouse of some kind. You have kids. So it can be something you start with and get something in place, and then, you know, as you get older, it can change with you.
Anytime there's a life change, and younger people especially, assets change all the time. And I do review my clients' plans periodically, free of charge, and they can have that done more frequently if they want.
Right.
But it's imperative, especially if you have small children.
Yeah.
You know, I tell the story all the time. There's a couple, they go out to dinner, their child is with a 16-year-old babysitter. And this happens all the time. They don't make it home from dinner. They're in a car accident or something.
Wow.
And even if you have a will and a trust, what happens to those children in the interim when maybe your parents might be across the country? You don't want strangers, you don't want the police to come into your house and take your children into protective custody and have them be comforted by strangers.
And they're already traumatized because you're gone.
They're already traumatized, and now they're being comforted by a police officer, or they're in a foster home and they're scared and they're lonely and they have no idea what's going on.
Wow.
So we do a lot of kids protection planning.
Oh, okay.
Where we put temporary guardians in place, and I prepare documents that you put on your refrigerator. And if I don't make it home from dinner, you call Aunt Sylvia, who happens to have the authority to take my children until my parents can get there, or somebody, a long-term guardian, can take over.
I have goosebumps because those are just, I mean, I used to be a nanny, you know, and travel the world and take care of infants and children. And you just never know, right? You're going out to, you just never know. So why not have peace of mind that a plan is in place for your kids, especially if you have infants, you know, kids that are just not able to fend for themselves, basically, and not verbalize a lot. You know, they want to have a face that they know.
Exactly.
That they can turn to, and that's going to take care of them, not strangers.
Exactly. So I'll bet you didn't know this.
Probably not.
In the state of Florida, there is $1.2 billion, that's with a B, of unclaimed property in the State Department of Unclaimed Property.
Wow.
And it's because of that failure to plan.
Wow.
Plus $50,000 now, because I had to tell a potential client that I couldn't handle his case. A nice gentleman from Florida called and said my brother died. He had a mobile home. He was a Florida resident. I said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Oh yeah, he claimed homestead." I said, "Great." He said, "Can you do a simplified probate?" And there is a procedure for that.
Okay.
And I said, "Sure." I said, "Send me the death certificate, send me his will." And when I got those documents, they said, his death certificate said that he was a New York resident. And the will that he wrote 2 weeks before he died said New York resident. And then I called the potential client back, and I said, "Are you sure there wasn't probate opened in New York?" And he said, "Oh yeah, I'm sure, but here's the lawyer's name." And he transferred some property, and I was thinking, did it happen by magic?
Right.
When I called New York, I realized that they had opened probate in New York. Now, here's the problem with the $50,000 mobile home. I used to say that Florida doesn't have homestead police, but now they do, because there's money in it.
Yep.
So when Florida started to claw back the homestead exemption, and now you're going to have fines and penalties, and the state of New York is going to want their tax money, that $50,000 asset is going to be worth nothing between attorney fees, fines, penalties, and I actually advised this poor man to let that mobile home go into the unclaimed property, because by the time he expended the time, energy, and money, it wouldn't be worth it. So if you take nothing from this, make sure that if you're a transplant, that you are truly a Florida resident. Not only be a Florida resident, but check out of your home state.
And we have so many snowbirds here, so many people that go northeast and come here, and things happen.
Yeah, and there's so many tips that I share with my clients about making sure you check in and make sure you also check out.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. That's scary. That's a scary story.
It is.
1.2 billion? Billion with the B. Oh my goodness, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's scary. Really, I think what you're providing is peace of mind to know that there's a strategy in place, that it's set, that it can evolve with you and in your life. And I think you provide a lot of peace of mind because you're very client-centric. You want to know that they're knowledgeable and empowered through that, and that they have peace of mind just to live.
And it's interesting, as our relationship evolves, the questions become more involved and they get smarter, and it's really cool to watch the relationship grow.
That's amazing. I'm more informed now. I think I have to call you afterwards, you know? Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. For those who are watching and they definitely want to take advantage of your offer, which, I mean, please, she's a longtime attorney, very knowledgeable in this, you know, call and get this done, you know, have peace of mind. Where can they call you? How can they reach you?
Would you like the phone number?
Yes. Send it out.
772-222-7979. It's a good one, right?
Yes. So that's your office number.
That's my office number.
Do you have a website or anything?
Yes, I do.
Tell it.
It's FerraroLawPalmBeach.com.
Okay, and we will link that so that you can get in contact with Nancy. And if you have questions, obviously, she's a wealth of knowledge, and you've been great. I really appreciate this. I think you provided a wealth of information on, I think, topics we just don't want to talk about. That's very hard to talk about, but I think it's so needed. And I don't care what age you are, if you got kids especially, it's something that you definitely need to take advantage of. And just a 2 hour, the 2 hours that they would spend with you alone, they're going to walk away, so informed.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And that's my goal.
That's your goal. I love it. Nancy Ferraro, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching She Owns It. We're here at Venture X. Definitely check them out as well. And I will see you